Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mega Monthly Zodiac Report. This is for the month of Virgo. I am Sensei Christopher Witecki.
And hello there. I am lead astrologer at Sirius Joy, Robbie Hunt. Happy to be here with you today.
I'm glad we made it. We had a problem in Leo. Like, it was tough. We had so much going on at the same time, personal and professional, that we weren't able to do that show. And in the meantime, we went off the air and decided to bring the show back. So here we are.
Here we are. Yay.
Good times had by all. And we are moving into Virgo and probably, on the air just in time for what we feel is going to become actually, the title of the month is The Becoming of the Evolved Self. Finally, after an entire lifetime of suffering and misery, it's here, Robbie.
Here it is, the thing that we have been waiting for. But, even it is going to slide in kind of differently than I think we had anticipated.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been an interesting month of Leo prior to this. And what we mean by this is the subtitle of the month, which is Spiritual Evolution is Becoming Realized. That, in essence, the big picture here is that all the work you've done on yourself for the entire lifetime is now loading up and getting ready for what we call the game. But let's talk about Leo. What was the Leo theme was, what was your quiet truth? And ultimately, we had argued that in Leo, actually, we argued privately, but never broadcast, that that Leo was a download of what the heart really wanted. It was a clearing, of our hearts. We had cleared our hearts and our damage, basically, with all of the Pisces energy, Saturn Pisces, Neptune Pisces, clearing up all those, shadow work, shadow boxing, etc. And finally, when we got to Leo, it came to, now that all this confusion of the heart is gone, getting back to the brass tacks of what did my heart want anyways, right? Getting to the core of that. And we called that the quiet truth because we said that ultimately it was something your heart might have been afraid to admit. So that begs a question, Robbie, for you. How is your Leo and what was your quiet truth?
My Leo was intense, and that the Leo in my world, things were intense with him. And that was that there was some medical things that came up dealing with his heart. So we had a Leo looking at the Leo heart and kind of what that means when you really get down to what is your heart all about? And what does it make you think about? It's, whenever you get into those situations, it really does make you sit with the heart and understand what is real, what's true for you, and what matters the most. So, here in this household, that was the big thing that I encountered. But I think what I learned about the quiet truth of my heart is really just kind of where it belongs, what it means for me to express my heart, kind of where I may have been holding back or where I didn't approach it in the best way possible. It really was incredibly personal to me and what that is all about. And of course, Leo being my opposing sign, it really just worked to bring two parts of me together. So it was very personal and very intense.
Got Humpty Dumpty back together again, you're saying?
We did get Humpty Dumpty back together again, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good for the whole world in that sense, that kind of image of Humpty Dumpty. We
Hmm.
sat on the wall, the Berlin Wall. But for me, it's similar, actually. I have a Leo rising, Leo moon. So it's not my opposite, but it's significant. It's my rising, my moon. I think for me, the quiet truth was to speak up for the quiet truth. I think for the first time, the light bulb that went on for me is I started telling people the truth. Not that I was ever lying. I was just holding back for people's feelings. I was holding back for everyone else sake, and that was causing more problems than not, anyways. Where it should have just hurt their feelings instead in the first place, you know what I mean, or whatever, or risk whatever that fear was. But also getting back to the quiet truth of my mission, back to the core of my mission, because I reached a point where it's now time to go for it. I mean, society says it's time to go for it. But even my personal development is personally on track in the sense of Sirius Joy. We have new people, doing a lot of the admin and running the company now. And it's like, oh, I can get back to my creative. I can get back to the beginning of the mission, or back to the core of the mission and getting creative again. Creativity went way up for me. Like the creative vibration in Leo, I don't know if it was the wet blanket removed of the karma or whatever, but I just suddenly became, rainbow bright.
I think for you, Christopher, the big thing was that you finally started teaching those step astrology classes during Leo. And that's your legacy. And, the community has been waiting a decade for you to teach those classes. So it's the perfect time to start them.
Now, when they say Tauruses are slow, you have no idea. No, it was all appropriate. I mean, actually, it all happened naturally and organically. And that was the other thing too. Is yes, it was actually, I would say I don't know what it was. I can't remember what transit we were looking at that started in 2007 ish. I can't remember if it was the nose. I think it was the last time there. This nodal was 18 years ago. Is that it? Can't recall. But what I realized I'd come to, yes, I finally was ready to publish my work. And the other thing is I started downloading new work. Like new stuff started coming in for the first time in 19 years. So that was also exciting because because the same show for 19 years is,
Mm-hmm.
the same.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was exciting. And I think for a lot of us, we came to a realization of, the Aquarius side of this was, really determining where I belong in the background, where I belong in my company, where I belong, in my house, where I belong in my family, like finally like setting into that Goldilocks just right kind of situation where everything felt correct, and not a little off.
But it's also where you belong with innovation because the step system was so innovative. So it's also where you belong with the Aquarius innovation of the step system in astrology.
Totally. And I'll tell you and share with the public, it's like the public's just now ready. Honestly, at this time that I was ready. So that was also interesting too. Seeing that the what I call the game is here. I'd always thought, when I first got in this business a long time ago, when even when I was young, 18, I knew there's going to be a big change on this planet. I had a sense that this is a lifetime of tremendous, profound change, for the society. And so one day, and then Leo was like, "Oh, it's the day. The day has arrived." That's what I realized. The day has arrived. It's here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. And so that kind of brings us now to, so that was Leo. And in essence, if you want to kind of paraphrase, I think we were lost. We were born knowing what our heart wanted. Then we got lost in our karma. And once that hit, we got distracted, lost the signal, all sorts of stuff. And I think, now that the karma has cleared, our heart is back to business of why we incarnated in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So you're born to live.
It's a little bit like having gone into VFib or something, that for a while the heart just stopped, and we've been doing all kinds of resuscitation for a while now, and it finally worked.
Yeah.
We finally got it.
Yeah, absolutely. And stayed on. I think there's been moments throughout, since 2012, I'd say, where it looked like it was running, and then, the rainbow machine fell apart, and it was back to inventing parts and trying to get it back up again. So, yeah, it's an exciting moment. In essence, I feel this is the moment where I always say, and I think this is what it comes down to, we had two major timelines this lifetime, if you're alive. One was to clear past life through age of darkness, and age of darkness being from Atlantis till now, frankly, where we didn't have a signal. We didn't even know we were human. We didn't even know we incarnated. We thought we were orangutans and, that evolved out of snails, like we were really, off as far as who we really are in the universe. And then 2012, we started warming back up again. And I would say, as of Leo, it was like suddenly, boom, we're back in business. And a lot of signal upgrades from people, Robbie. I have clients telling me they're channeling stuff, their own systems, like the SEP system. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people who, were curious about this prior, but would never call it a profession. And some who feel kind of, surprised, as if for them, it feels like they've been given a mission that they didn't know about. They literally did not know about their mission until recently from
Yeah,
Spirit.
I can say that I've kind of joined I don't want to say the channeler realm, but I'm having conversations with the planets in ways that I haven't had before.
Yes, yes. And you'll enjoy that padded room.
Yeah, yeah, I will, because you will be right there with me.
Yes. Yeah. No, yeah. Well, I don't want to go in that movie. That's funny. Am I the doctor who's interviewing you? Like I was studying you
Mhm.
all along, or am I actually in the cell with you? You'll find out. It's number 3.
Mhm.
So now here in Virgo, it's interesting because we have a Virgo eclipse season, and it seems to fit so together with my thinking of the story, and that is, it's now time to do what we're here to do. And one of the things that I came to realize when the sun crossed Jupiter at 29 Gemini,
Mhm.
I had this huge epiphany of, for me, the ways to talk about the new era, which is that I've concluded that right now we're actually playing a video game in heaven, that this is a video game.
Mhm.
The reality is a video game. I call it the game. I spell it my own way. But, and so as a result, it shifted my thinking completely about everything. I mean, just from that one metaphor, whether it's true or not, literally, the metaphor is really suitable for like describing how we incarnate and what we're here to do. That we're here to play this game, and this game is based on growth opportunities and growth aim. That our soul wants to grow. So we, download ourselves into this box called reality, and we're kind of tripped out, and we forget that we're even in a game for a long time. We finally realize it's all a game, and at that moment, it's time to go into gameplay. So we're about to shift into gameplay. And Virgo, I believe, Robbie chime in here, just going ahead, is we're going to now want to launch our quiet truth. We want to go forward with our quiet truth in essence. And so this is where we become the evolved self, but in a more practical sense, this is where we first upgrade our bodies and our physical becoming. So because who we have become, every cell in your body, which replaces every 7 years, was all coded to playing the whole victim game,
Mhm.
right? I'm a victim. And then we realized, wait a second, I wrote the game. Oh, I guess I can't call myself victim anymore. And now, so this first, the Virgo really is, we have an incredible lunar event month. We have, a 0-degree Virgo new moon, a 15-degree Pisces full moon lunar eclipse, right?
Right?
And then we have a new moon on 29. So it's 0, 15, 29.
Yeah.
That's a precise surgical removal of the old hardware and a new console. We get a whole new console.
And wouldn't you expect Virgo to be that precise?
No, no. And that tells you the evolution right there.
You know?
Even the Virgos are satisfied. That's just like, what? And what say you, Virgo? You
Yeah.
pass? There's no comments? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
like, well, when does that happen? Well,
Hmm.
everyone's operating now. It's so interesting. And it was we were just pretending to be sick anyways. How's that one too? That's interesting. So it's going to be a interesting month. So looking at the month ahead, some of the highlights. I just brought up eclipse season. We got like a surgical precision eclipse season.
Hmm.
Robbie, what would you like to throw in the?
I think the thing for me is the node staying at 18 degrees Pisces and Virgo.
Mm.
That's the one steady thing that stays in Virgo is that south node right there at 18, the net 9 of taking action. And so it's to me a reminder that we are still calling some stuff. We're still removing stuff because
Oh yeah.
it was in the Leo season that it moved to 18 and it stays here during Virgo. So it just lets us know that there's more going on to cull to get to that heart even more, some more improvement, I'm thinking, and all for the purpose of that North Node in Pisces about just moving ourselves to a more authentic voice with God universe and
Mm.
understanding our own perspective
Mm.
with God universe. And so to me, that's in a Virgo season that's just going to be so busy.
Oh.
Also, just know Virgo would make sure that there was one thing that would at least stay there and
Mm.
anchor everything in. And to me, it's the node staying at 18.
Yeah, if you're going to change everything, something has to not change as a reference point. I
Hmm.
find 18 to be interesting because 18 Virgo is 9/11.
Oh, that's right.
That's the
Yeah.
degree of 9/11. So it's like, so we spend the month really, exporting 9/11, 18 degrees Virgo. That's when 9/11 happens at 18 Virgo. And to me, that export is corruption to some degree. The system was corrupted with, viruses and whatever, let's say, and hackers. So I feel, and I made a prediction a while ago. I want to say, I predicted that I think we're going to see some 9/11 stuff come out.
I agree.
Officially, and I think that's a good strategy if you're going to debug the whole government. Let's start with 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and so we're not so emotionally attached to it, and go from there. But and then go to the 19 Pisces. So this is the anti 9/11 in the sense of, if 9/11 was a moment when human beings had basically crashed an airplane into the tower. I mean, human beings had basically made our own system hit our own system and crash, which would represent how we were drunk at the wheel, so to speak, of humanity, and how we had basically, run amok with our, construction power and our material wealth power. And no matter how you look at it or who you blame, even if you look at the classic story we were told, they're mad at us for being, they're mad at us. The enemy's mad at us because we're wealthy. Was a lot of the story, right? It's like, again, that's just, wealth run amok, modern life run amok. And so theoretically, this would be the replacement of that, because this is a Pisces now. And Pisces mean like, oh, it's not about what's run amok. It's about why you were here to begin with. North Node and Pisces. What was the objective? 18. What was the objective of what we're going to do? Because 18 Virgo is like what you're gonna do. What you're committed to doing every day. I'm an 18. It's all about what we're gonna do. Mine, 18 at 9. It's all about, we're the ones like, well, what are we gonna do while we're here? 18. So we're gonna basically undo what we're gonna do while we're here, and we're gonna install new spiritual high resolution 5D thoughtware of what we intend to do all along.
Well, I'll add to it this, especially given the 9/11 reference that you made there.
Mm.
If so much of what we've had to do over the last year is prepare our hearts and shift our reality, then it must mean that there's going to be something going on that's going to require that. So it's a little bit like
Yeah.
training for the 10K before you go run the 10K.
Mm.
And just knowing the astrology of the rest of the year, as now we're going to have Saturn moving back into Pisces.
Mm.
Eventually, Neptune's going to move back into Pisces, both of them hitting 29 Pisces, Saturn going to 25 Pisces. There must be something that we're visiting at a last moment to
Yes.
really upgrade our faith, upgrade all of that. But we had to have a personal relationship with ourselves before we could do that. And so
Mhm.
just knowing that the astrology is probably preparing us for something, you've got to ask the question, well, what is that? And it is typically in the times of less peace and more war that individuals find their peace. And really, this is about the individual finding those things. And when you have enough individuals finding those things, now you start to shift the collective with that. So I don't want to be a fear monger either, but just the metaphysics of it all just says if we're being asked to move into a particular place, there must be a pretty good reason why.
Yes, I agree. I feel intuitively that the 29 Pisces is the reenactment of the Atlantis wound.
Hmm.
That's what I feel. It ultimately will be something that reminds us of the fact that we destroyed the planet once.
Yeah.
And it's a retrograde, so it's a crisis. It's a spiritual crisis. And I would say that Atlantis was the destruction of the earth based on a spiritual crisis. The crisis was spirit lost control of the earth. Spirit was in control of Atlantis. Heaven was ruling things. Literally, having connections to the government. Imagine if we had Congress and they had to answer to angels. That's what it was. And so the world was run on spirituality, but it had gone way amok for a long time prior to that. And the fall of Atlantis was, that's it. The apes are on their own.
Hmm.
Until we can get this signal back up again. And I would say we just got the signal back up. I would say from Atlantis, the signal just went back up when Pluto went to Aquarius, where it's just like, oh, here's a plug, and out comes AI.
Hmm.
So what's also funny is like, we created, in the meantime, we went ahead and created ourselves an alternate, you know, infinite reality of knowing, which is a artificial intelligence, right at the moment we actually connected to divine intelligence.
Well, I think if we got ourselves past some of that and got ourselves to this, then any of those kinds of events that took away those civilizations, like Atlantis, like Lemuria, I think we are on the edge of avoiding that. For the
Oh,
first
sure.
time, this is an extinction event that we're avoiding because enough of the collective consciousness has gotten to the point where we can co-create differently and that we don't need Earth wiping everything out in order for things to be different.
Mm. I have to do a deep reference here for those who are in Gen X. By the way, Gen X, I think, is coming into power now.
Hmm.
And the baby boomers are officially moving to being the elder class. And I would say the millennials are officially moving to be the class that is, going through training, like the real,
Hmm.
they're in boot camp, getting ready for them taking over. And in this moment, it's sort of like Scooby Doo, in the sense that we've been chased around by this guy on the farm who's been scaring us in every other scene. And we just pulled off his mask. Daphne just pulled off his mask, and it's Mr. Rogers, who's actually the bad guy, playing a mean guy. And we just realized. And so, but the thing is the bad guy doesn't realize we pulled off their mask, and they're still saying boo.
And remember, the bad guy always said, I'd get away. I would have gotten away with it too if you hadn't been for you meddling kids.
You pesky kids too is another one. Like, you pesky kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always like some guy like was trying to keep his, theme park open. So he like made it haunted and wore a mask. I mean, the dark really gave away their plot and everything, didn't they?
Yeah, they
But like,
did.
it's kind of funny. And so here we are in this moment. And I think that's going to be interesting because some of us can tell it was a mask all along. Some of us are still believing. Some of us thinks that there's a mask underneath he took it off the real face. They think that's a mask too. Like, there's another mask under there. So it's a weird moment. And in essence, we begin what I call the game. This is the moment. This is what we've been waiting for. And the first thing is the revelation of how asleep we were at the wheel. That'd be the first chapter, how asleep we actually were. And so I feel that we're going to see, intuitively, this is a like 6-month scope between now and Pisces. I think we're going to start to see charges, so to speak, accusations, all sorts of plots. And I think that both sides will accuse both sides, because the side that's responsible for the hijack of human consciousness will blame the other side for hijacking human consciousness. That's how it always works.
But both sides are complicit in this. All of these sides are complicit in this.
Yes.
And if there was anything that showed that, it was the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto conjunction of 2019 into 2020. That started showing us that, what was underneath that mask was not what we thought.
Absolutely. And I was I was even shocked it was the owner, kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. And someone here is saying someone's saying the passing of the torch is going to be a problem in our chat here, and that they're saying that Gen X needed like a problem in order to stand up. No, I don't think Gen X needed a cause. I think Gen X has been actually working our ass off the whole time, supporting both our parents and our children. Like, the X is holding the top up and the X is holding the bottom up. We're the freaking girder guys. We keep it together. Like,
well, the thing with Gen X is that they were born with Pluto and Uranus and Virgo. And so their whole dance with reality is not like the other generations because of those two outer planets in Virgo. That's a big difference.
Well, I think, it's actually ironically where we are now. I mean, if you want to think about it in the Pluto generation, here this month in Virgo and then next month in Libra, you have basically the two Plutos of the Gen X. Gen X was Pluto in Libra and Pluto Virgo, actually. It was two Plutos, where our generation is the one that said, maybe you should see a doctor about that. Or our generation also said, maybe you shouldn't trust your doctor with that, So that was the Pluto Virgos. Pluto Libras is like, and by the way, he's an asshole. Pluto Libra is like, pointing out that the relationship was flawed to begin with. Pluto Virgo saying that we're sick because of it. And so Gen X, in my opinion, is, hey, we're sick. Let's take control of our health. And while we do it, get rid of the assholes. Like, yeah, this equation, this isn't going to work anymore. The unfair rulers, let's say. Mm-hmm. People are taking advantage of power, Pluto. That's part of the Pluto Libra too. It's like, you're taking advantage of power. It's not going to be cool. Our generation will be the one to hold the trials, really.
Yeah.
And then we hand it off to the millennials, which is Pluto and Scorpio, pure Pluto. That's the reboot right there. Mm-hmm. I feel the millennials are here to draw the new lines.
Yes, I agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's all XYZ from here, right?
XYZ.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this month, we, another thing we'll just say too. So we have retrograde transits happening this month. So planets going back into Pisces. I feel that dip back into Pisces is the return of an old plot. I personally was like, what are we going to go in? I always think that when you go back to a sign like that, you're making final touches. Like, oh, now they're seeing the next sign. Can I change what I'm having for lunch? So we kind of do an order change usually. I don't think we're doing an order change this time. I think there's going to be a call for a change of order, in the sense that we're probably going to manifest some sort of event that echoes Atlantis' fall or the fear of it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a war games point, what you were referencing before the movie. It's like, oh, we're going to go through a war game. Mm-hmm. Where go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and the planet that we're talking about specifically here is Saturn. Saturn going retrograde, and we'll talk about that when we get into the weeks. But yeah, Saturn that starts as the first of between it and Neptune going back into Pisces, and I agree with you. It's all of that, and it's a little bit like that one last little filling your cup up before you get on the road. You know, it's the last going and taking a pee before you get on the road. It's the last little preparation, but especially with Saturn, because you know once it's out of there, it won't be there for another 29 years. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's a going and getting that one last little bit, that last almost like breath of air before you get down into the water and swim around for a bit. Just yeah.
Yeah. I feel also, well, there's also, as far as karma is concerned, we all fix our karma. And we're like, oh, I guess that was the problem. All right, well, there is no bad guy. I'm the bad guy. I create reality. And it's just like, wrong. Turns out that, like, I think there's a reveal of a karmic line that was never talked about or brought up when we
Hmm.
were all facing our karma. We all face
Yeah.
our karma, but no one said who did 9/11, right? Like, no one, there was no nothing got blamed for that. No karma of that came out. So we've got some deep societal karma that has yet to come out. And I think that's what our lifetime is about. Just look at how, really, I think it's a revelation of what happened in Atlantis, even. You know, I,
Hmm.
you don't hear about Atlantis falling. You don't hear about why, you know. There's theories, but there's a real story of why that happened, and it wasn't based on humans. I'll tell you that.
Hmm.
So there's the retro transit. So I think in the retro transit of Pisces, we actually get introduced like the one karmic issue that nobody really talked about and faced the dirty secret of humans, right? Whatever that is, and those dirty secrets. So I think that's part of it. And then we have, of course, retrograde planets. So so much is sort of when a planet retrogrades, it's almost like a tugboat disconnects from the ship and lets it kind of coast. We've been tug, and then retrograde is like, okay, let the ship coast, and so we're left there floating to wherever we've been towed to, and we're left floating with what, Uranus. What are the planets that go retrograde this month? It's
Uranus is the one planet, the other planet that goes retrograde, and that's it. It's just Saturn. Yeah, Saturn and Uranus that goes retrograde. Yeah.
yes, it's the final two tugboats that go retrograde. Now we find ourselves lost at sea, right where we left ourselves when Atlantis fell, lost at sea, right?
Hmm.
And in this month, as far as highlights of the month are concerned, we also have a stagnant compass, which is what you were saying, with the North Node stays at 18 the entire month of Virgo.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's almost like we can't tell if the compass is frozen. Like I think on the ship we're like, wait, is the compass frozen or is it just pointing north always? Like always, north is always this way, no matter which way we turn. It's interesting.
But we're
Okay.
in that stagnant place, but we just have to remember we're new people and we've got different tools, so don't react the same way that we
Absolutely.
did that we did
Mhm.
before.
Yes, and I feel like part of that is a realization that this is all a game, that we are manifesting this, that this is simulation. That everyone goes back to heaven, and at the end of the day, there's only happy endings.
Hmm.
Despite what it appears to be. So breaking down through the month, let's do a week by week analysis, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll do the startup. I'll just set up for the first week. The first week is technically from August 23rd to the 30th, going from steps 0 to 7, which means degrees of 0 Virgo to 7 Virgo. Mind you, there's a new moon right on that first day. You want to tell us about it, Robbie?
That new moon, that happens on Saturday, the 23rd of August. It starts at 2:06 a.m. It is a 0-degree Virgo new moon. And Christopher, you want to bring the chart up on that and take a look at it real quick? You want to
Oh
do
yeah,
that?
let's do it. Yes.
So there is the chart, and the interesting is not even a good enough word. Look at that 0-degree moon and sun, new moon. Look at it. It's a yod. Look at
Oh
what
yeah.
fits that yod.
And the
The
feet of the odd. Can we get any
Yep,
closer? I don't know, but it's Pluto. Pluto
it's
and Saturn. Yeah.
hmm Pluto and the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And I mean, whoa! This is how we start the month.
Yeah, I'm gonna open here my local
Oh,
desktop so I can kind of see it too.
there we
Yeah,
go.
so we have that. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you see the new moon is 0, 023.
Hmm.
And if you're taking into a step astrology class, you know what the 23 means. That's all I'm gonna do is tease you, public. But
Uh,
23.
but
Yeah.
23 was also the degree of the previous lunar eclipse.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Just
So
knowing what
we're,
I know
we're
now.
getting our minds right.
Right.
Getting our minds right.
And I would just say that 23 is telling us that the heaven intention is believing what we feel, believing what we feel, to understand. So understanding the truth is what this, the root intention of that 0 degree is, to understand the truth. So
Mm-hmm.
we're creating a 0 degree reality. So Virgo's a reality
Mm-hmm.
in essence. Virgo's where we become flesh, where we become, encoded into the matrix, right? And we dial in. And so this new moon says, okay, it's now time to create a reality where you know the truth, where you are protecting self love, Pluto, and where you are protecting and self love of the new, and when you are crafting a new ego. So 0 degree Saturn in Aries to me is the WeGo. So it's the launch of the WeGo, which is the new joystick, the new controller is
Mm-hmm.
also coming out for this game. And the one where we're still downloading the thoughtware, downloading the spiritual software, where self love is the basis. Self love is the basis of knowing the truth. It's because we love ourselves, we demand to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we build a new reality and a reality based on that. Interesting stuff. Notice how our emotions, Jupiter at 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, the program itself, the software, the thoughtware, the emotional is set to, our heart, an open heart, listening to heaven. And I like Venus at 27 that, in this new hardware, if you will, this new reality, Venus 27 says we are openly and actively seeking to feel better. I'd say 27 is the intention to feel better, period, whatever better is. Or we should say for our Witeckiisms, to feel gooder.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how Black Moon is at 16 also, and trining Jupiter.
I was about to say that, and
Iris.
yep. Well, and the orb between that Venus and Jupiter is 11 degrees.
Wow.
So, an authenticity about making sure that we feel this kindness, this compassion toward ourselves, toward others, and not toward the fear where Jupiter is trining up to with Black Moon Lilith at 16. So
Mm.
it's just the invitation to remember, if you don't know what to do, be kind.
I think I literally look at that Jupiter 16 as the angel and Black Lilith is the devil. This is the angel and devil on your shoulder. Are you listening to the devil? Are you listening to the angel? I think it's a
Mhm.
question. And Mercury at 12 is like, well, let's find out.
But that's also why it's all at zero, so that you can let one in and keep the other out. The
Oh,
boundary.
totally. Or because you have no boundaries, let them both in, like by accident. Or, yeah. Or, tune them both out.
Hmm.
Archangel Michael and Lilith banging on the door, so. Look at the Chiron at 26 Aries. I think that is also interesting because the gamer, the player one, Ready Player One, literally, is now healed. Chiron at 26 says, okay, I can now devote my ego to a new cause. I'm healed enough to devote my ego to a new cause. I've been subconsciously obsessed with trying to make the past life right. And now I don't have to make the past life right because I realized it was the past, not the present, that was haunting me. I was being haunted by the wound. I wasn't the wound. But Chiron 27, 26 says, okay, this is a new character. I mean, to be, that we're creating, we're launching, that's healed, that's in integrity.
Hmm. It's a
Yeah.
commitment to a healing that to me is part of what the node in Pisces is doing. It's look, this is a deeper kind of a healing. This is not just going to the therapist. It's not just, rage screaming out in the woods. This is a whole different kind of healing, and it's
Mhm.
allowing God universe to be the part of that healing, going higher into it. And I don't need to go down to these human philosophies of how to remove myself from that. I can do this higher.
I agree. There, so I think a lot of the ways that we have been losing the game has been us caught in the caught in the fight over unfairness.
Yeah.
And so we've been like, that's not fair. It's not fair you did this. It's not fair. So we've been sort of like, you know, and this is Gen X too. It's not Pluto and Libra. It's not fair. This is not fair. This is unfair. Until now, where it's like we're sort of like, not jumping around metaphors. Luke Skywalker in the Return of the Jedi, where it's like, I'm not going to bitch about how it's not fair. I have the Force now, bitch. Like so now there's this Jedi that's come out. We're strong. We're not going to get caught
Mhm.
up in that argument because I
Right.
think the dark is always been saying, but wouldn't you like to, argue over this and avoid the truth that we did that, you know? And now we're like, no, we're fine with that. Let's focus on this over here.
Mhm.
This evidence you don't want to open up. What's in the box? Kind of thing.
Well, and that's part of what Black Moon Lilith would bring up, that you were treated badly. you were disrespected, this, and it's just a reminder that we can just go, I don't even need to go there. I just don't need to go there. And
Yeah.
it's even higher than taking the higher ground. It's just, look, if you are going to live a higher life, you gotta have to align to higher powers. You
Yes.
don't get to be in the lower stuff and get higher results. You got to go higher to get higher.
Yeah. Talking about getting high. I think Chiron and Aries right alone was doing that in the sense of uh we kept, how do we put this? We have been stuck trying to prove that we're right. And what we realized was we don't need to prove we're right. We just need to know it and act based on it. Like, I don't
Hmm.
need to prove anything. I think the Chiron Aries generation is like, I've got to show you I wasn't wrong.
Hmm.
And that's where we got lost. It's like, wait a second, I don't have to show you I wasn't wrong. Just I'm going to start from the fact that I know I'm right
Hmm.
and not even engage in that conversation. It's sort of like someone breaks in your house to steal your TV and then they fall and they sue you for falling from when they were breaking in to get your TV. Like that's
Hmm.
sort of like what's been happening. Like, what, you're going to sue us? You're robbing the house. So we were caught up in the absurdity of it, and now I think that we have come Jedi's, and so we're like, we're not going there. We're not going to go to that conversation. Like, that's a civil suit. This is criminal.
Yeah.
Like, right? Don't bring it in the case. It has no merit.
Hmm.
So in this first week, I feel like we feel like that. The first thing we're going to do is get new hardware because our bodies and our health and how we've been in this has all been for the purpose of survival, which means we have heavy toxins on the planet, we have heavy pollution, we have lots of different poisons that have been sprayed to wipe us out, so to speak. And so we've had these bodies and these antibodies, let's say, that have been fighting, being the toxins. We've been fighting the toxins under the word disease. And I think that the first, 7 degrees, the 0 to 7, the first week is probably a rebuild, a cellular structure rebuild. Now, I don't have a dry eye in the house as far as my clients, as far as someone who hasn't gone through a major health reboot in the last 40 days. And when I say a reboot, they just got some sort of illness where they were down 3 days, or, or had like a major surgery or major moment, and that reboot, what was, I think, the new hardware, if you will, that we had to get. And
Hmm.
so I think that the first, what you become in the core from 0 to 7, from 0 to 7 in Virgo is what you become inside yourself. Because after 7, you now go into the outer world of 8, controlling your life and controlling yourself in the world. So it's all that inner spirit gets rebooted. And I think we download, we're starting to prepare for the new spiritual game to come in.
Yes, as a matter of fact, part of what the new spiritual game, though, is, when that downloading the new firmware, I think, is part of why we then have Venus move into Leo later at the year. It's just another move into the higher love, and
Mhm.
if there is anything that heals, it's love. And so Venus moving into Leo does that on Monday, August 25th. To
Mhm.
me, is just, I am watching Venus over the next year because she's very instrumental with how Uranus moved into Gemini this year. She's instrumental in how Uranus moves into Gemini finally in 2026. So I'm watching what she does during this entire year,
Mhm.
because to me, that's what she's going to help Uranus do when Uranus goes into Gemini in April of 2026. So here we are on the edge of this big old 0 degree new moon, and then Venus moves into Leo after we've had this incredible Leo season. So it's just adding additional value to love. And I think if there's anybody who has been through a major health reset, there could also be the tendency to criticize yourself.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
this happened because I didn't exercise. I didn't take the supplements I was supposed to. I was drinking too much. I was smoking too much. I was doing no. Don't even go there. Just don't go there.
No. Yeah. Well, and you know what? Had you been smoking tobacco without the chemicals, maybe, I mean, American Indians didn't have lung cancer. Like, apparently,
Hmm.
then. There's no record of that, like, so I think it's all new disease too, due to new intoxications. The Venus and Leo, I agree. That is the new, basically, now that we've cleared out the toxins, if you will, and that does have to happen, y'all. You have to clear out the toxins because we've been mostly poisoned. Once you clear out the toxins, well, then you realize, oh my God, there's a whole expansion pack of this game that's never downloaded.
Mm.
You didn't even realize. Just like, a lot of medicines will trick the body into filling in the receptor, and so the body's tricked and it's been hacked. And, we sort of kind of hacked. And so what this, I think, means ultimately is that who we become on the inside, that 0 through 7 to me is, I am not a survivor. That is not what I am. I was tricked. I was never sick, and sick. And I was never a disease. It wasn't some foreign virus that attacked me. It was that I was talked into thinking I was sick, kind of thing. And so there's this realization of going, wait a second, I'm always, all there is in life is joy. All there is in heaven is joy. Anything else is actually the corruption, right? So now we go through this pure becoming that I am not, my father's son, right? And I think the download of Venus in Leo is like, I am ... I am He-Man. I am Thunderdor, whatever.
Well, and that Venus moving into Leo then is part of what helps us with the question for the week. And that
Mm,
question is, can I forgive my entire lifetime? Well,
yes.
is there anything to forgive?
Mm,
Especially given what the point you just made. And I think that that's an excellent point. So much of what we did was based upon the recommendation of those big pillars of our foundation of society that told us. The church said do this, and the medical establishment said do this, and the government said do that, and all these places said do that, and we did. Maybe we did it kind of wondering, that doesn't make sense, but okay, you're the expert, I'll do it. That forgiveness, oof, do we really have anything to forgive? Especially
mm.
with so much of what we relied upon other people to give us guidance on. And their guidance was not from the heart.
Oh no, I mean, I think yeah, right with you. I mean, all the way back to really the age of Pisces, right? Which age of Pisces was like, I mean, we are children of God. We are, the latest generation, the photocopies, and we lose our memory. We come to Earth, and the first thing they say is like, "Did you know you're a sinner,
Hmm.
and that someone died for those sins? Because you're already bad to begin with." It's like, wait a second, God created someone who's bad. Well, I don't understand. That's right, you don't understand. That's why you got to learn the Bible, or whatever. So we've been on this spell that like we're bad. We did something wrong. We don't remember what it was, and these people tell us that we were bad. And so now it's like, wait a second, I was never bad. Like,
Hmm.
I was never a sinner. And so that those premise lies that have, basically destroyed, been kept power over some who had the answers too, right?
Hmm.
Who claim to have the answers,
Right.
who create the disease and then the cure, basically is that's what it is: creating the disease and then the cure.
Hmm.
So now going forward, I agree. Venus and Leo is the downloading of our heart's truth. Neptune sextiling Uranus and Gemini. That's interesting because to me, Neptune is downloading the truth, you know,
Hmm.
um, which is here's the paradox. We're going to download the truth, of which the liars will call us, liars. And the liars will say that we are delirious and delusional, when in fact we'll be calling out the delusional. So it's going to be a paradox, y'all. It's going to be fun. What's the word? Flame, what do they call it? Uh, Flame throwing? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? I can't remember the term now. Fire. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. All of a
Are you
sudden.
talking about like a fire start?
Well, I'm talking about like when they're gaslighting. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
There'll be like a lot of gaslighting happening this fall. I think a lot of gaslighting. The ones accusing, will probably be, the accusing will probably be the ones guilty. It's gonna be inside out. It's gonna be that paradox. I think in a lot of cases, not always, but to some degree.
Hmm.
So this first week, putting in a more practical sense, the first week, can I forgive my entire lifetime? There's a realization that the only thing that was wrong was the idea that something was wrong. Well, that's what turns out to be wrong because we create our own realities. So it was not that anything was wrong with me. It was that I was told something was wrong with me. That's what was wrong.
Hmm.
And that clears all the final confusion about us versus them and who I am and who they are. So we come online, we kind of own our autonomy. We become this new pure version of ourselves. You could say this is a Virgo. All the Virgos will be reset to being virgins, right? So to speak. Equal.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. There's some bullshit right there. Except those in Virginia. They will not figure it out. I'm just kidding. Virginia. What about week 2, Robbie? Week 2 looks
Oh, yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Let's move off of this. Week 2, we are saying this is installing the operating system, and
Mm.
that the subplot there is going to be where we're optimizing the system. Thus, the reason that we are installing it. And we have got during this particular week not one, but two retrogrades that happen, and Mercury moving into Virgo. So, Christopher, we talked a little bit about the retrograde of Saturn into Pisces and Uranus into Gemini. You want to talk a little bit more about that one? Because we've really talked a lot about Saturn going back into Pisces, but what about Uranus going back into Taurus?
Very interesting. The thing about Uranus, Uranus, however you want to say it, tomato, tomato, it going back into Taurus for me is a little different than what I was saying with Saturn and Pisces. Saturn and Pisces usually was like, well, let's have one more rewrite of the karma. And I think this time it'll be like, it turns out it's not at all what we thought, right? I think Uranus and Taurus is our value system shifting. So the most valuable thing you could do in the old era was abundance. Why? Because it bought you out of the game. Like if you could be
Mm,
rich, then you wouldn't be affected by all these power hungry, institutions that were trying to make you sick and telling you you're a sinner. If you could be wealthy, that was the greatest value because you were free. I feel like Uranus going back into Taurus is going to redefine abundance in a different way. And so we're going to actually change the mark of what we're aiming for as far as abundance is concerned. And it's not going to be just material anymore. It'll probably be virtual. It'll probably be intelligence. I mean, I think to some degree, abundance will be intelligence. I was thinking with Uranus, in Gemini, that is AI. And the epiphany that I had, recently since our last podcast was the thing about AI is it levels the playing field as far as intelligence. Everyone will have equal access to intelligence. If you're dumb, you'll still be able to compete with the most intelligent people because there'll be this software program that will actually talk to you in dumb language and then translate to the smart people. Like we now have eliminated the idea that someone smarter than someone else has an advantage. That's over now. We've equaled the playing field when it comes to intelligence. Not 100%, but more than we've ever even thought of. And we've doubled our capacity to process information. I literally have this software that will think in a techie way while I'm playing, like working out the problems, working out the equation. So I think Uranus, in a Gemini, I was like, oh, we have AI now. It's a whole new world. Intelligence is leveled. Well, if intelligence is leveled, well, then that changes the whole game of what we were racing for when it comes to Taurus and abundance. What are your thoughts on it?
You bring up an excellent point that I hadn't thought about. I wrote it down so I won't forget that Uranus and Taurus is about acquiring the assets so that you can get away from the power. You could be part of the power.
Yes.
But on top of that, and I agree with you about how Uranus and Gemini can help level the playing field. But I think I'm going to take it even one step further in terms of that intelligence. And that is that it's not only technology and intelligence, but it's the esoteric intelligence
Yes.
because it's Uranus that rules Aquarius and Pluto is over there in Aquarius. And so Pluto there is getting rid of those old paradigms and getting us back to the things that actually truly worked. So I think that it will give us the wisdom to how to use AI and to maybe get ahead of the power brokers
Mhm.
because we just understand how these things can go bad real quick. And so I think that that's why there's a lot of us who are getting very involved in AI because we feel like we need to put our imprint in it. We need to be working with it and get ahead of the folks who would want to use it to try to, you know, moderate menus at the fast food restaurant for how you're going to get your food and what you're going to pay for it. So
Mhm.
I think Uranus is doing some double duty in its going back and forth there between Gemini and Taurus to accomplish two goals and not just one.
Well, the word intelligence is going through an upgrade. I
Hmm.
think that's what it is. It's like we've defined intelligence by memorizing facts, and turns out there's a lot more intelligence than that. There's more intelligence in your heart than there's in your brain. And that's really the issue, that we're going to introduce divine intelligence, that there's a divine intelligence that created the artificial. Like there's intelligence before the intelligence. And so I think you have really these two camps, one that's trying to master the game and get smarter than everyone else and use, earthbound intelligence to like be the smartest game player. And then the other side that goes, I'm going for divine intelligence where I can actually change the rules of the game instead of win it. And so I think that's where we're heading, where we're in control of the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a divide there. And so going back into Taurus, I feel like we're kind of arguing over whose game are we playing. You guys say we're playing this game for power, but I'm going to go back to the source code. By going back to source where the whole source code was written, I'm going to rewrite the source code of the game instead of try to win the game you gave me.
The original power.
Yes, the authentic power. Because what happened was there was authentic power, and then we woke up from being knocked out unconscious, and we wake up and we're like, what happened? And they're like, oh, some big dinosaur came by and smacked you on the head, but that's okay. We killed it. And did you know you're a sinner?
That's a big gap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're a sinner. Mm-hmm. That's why you fell down that hole. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And really what happens, they knocked him over the head. So Mercury goes into Virgo, and Mercury in Virgo, I think, this time is, it's basically sort of saying it's now running AI. Like Mercury, which is basically black and white, is now quantum Mercury. I feel like Mercury is going to have to be quantum, and each of the Gemini splits into two, so you have quantum 4. And it's, instead of two directions, it's now we can move in two directions that each has two directions. So we go this deeper Mercury in Virgo, and then it squares Uranus in Gemini on the 3rd. And I think at that point, that's sort of a, again, it's a lot of coding errors. So I think we're gonna have a lot of, system breakdowns, 404 errors, so to speak, in the beginning, because we're trying to run the new code and the old code's interfering. There's still spots of it. And even Jupiter in Cancer that on the same day trines the North Node in Pisces, which is that, hey, you're telling me that the code problem, but from what I'm feeling, it's something under the computer. Mm-hmm. Like we're realizing it's something under what, where the game is, so to speak. So I guess we're in this, installing the new operating system and optimizing the system is really realizing that this is a whole new game. And the key question this month, we'll talk more about it though, is how do I differentiate between versions? I think that's going to be a big problem in Virgo. It's like, wait a second, am I on the old timeline where things are failing, or am I on the new timeline where I realize things have failed? I think we're going to be kind of in and out of Virgo as far as like, where am I?
I see that as Mercury in Virgo will be the thing that will help us differentiate between the versions, because it'll be able to compare and contrast. But I think that we've got to remember that while we are in this new level of being, that we are still active with the memories and the consequences of what we did yesterday. And that's where maybe some of the disconnect can be, because when we move ourselves into this enlightened kind of thinking or new kind of thinking, it doesn't shift things overnight. It gets the ball rolling overnight, but your physical reality often doesn't change overnight. And so any of the memories that you have from the old time and any of the consequences that jumped and still are here that you are engaging with, it's just the reminder that the consequences are just going to be dealt with now from the new place of thinking, and not from the place that created the consequences to begin with.
Yes. No, I agree. I think that's exactly it. It's that the new reality starts on the old set. So you start playing the new movie on the old set. So it's like, wait a second, something's not right here. And I think some people are still going to be convinced they're in the old movie and not realize they're in the new movie line. This is the sequel. No, we're actually in the sequel that's doing a flashback. We're not in the flashback looking at the future. So it's like a whoop, wonk, 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 wonk. And I think there's a lot of confusion there and chaos. And I think a lot of people are just going to be plain out wrong, completely confused and wrong, blaming us for being wrong, because we're throwing off their reality when we're like, you realize you're in the prior film, right? On the prior film, right? Prior film set playing the new film, So I think there's a lot of that. It's well said. And Mars in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer too. Like Mars in Libra is basically the optimization of the system. where it's like, oh shit, this new operating system, we need to do a download. We got to download a patch. We got to download a new plugin because like a lot of the things, the features aren't working. They didn't carry over so well, in the new system, so to speak. And at the end of this week, Uranus stations retrograde.
Yeah.
So Uranus, which is basically saying we're going to redefine intelligence. That was like its first statement. We're going to redefine what intelligence means. And because it's at step one, it's all God. I think it basically said intelligence comes from the heart, actually, not anything the mind says.
Mm-hmm.
It's the heart. All intelligence is the heart, which is who's the light worker that's always saying that? Heart intelligence and mind, heart, and coherence. Who is that? Someone in our audience tell us watching this. I can't remember his name now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? He's like a guy. He's bigger than that, though. He just happens to be on Gaia. But he's been showing the difference
like
between.
Lee Harris?
No, I'm thinking about Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
And I think about it, he's doing like, heart mind coherence and, really a lot of his work in the last, decade has been that the heart's smarter than the mind and the heart's like doing a lot of the processing that we're giving the mind credit to. And I agree with all of that. So I feel like we kind of I think we realize that our brain is actually our heart. The command center of our soul is our heart, not our brain. And yeah.
You've got three brains.
Yeah.
You've got this brain, you got a brain in the heart, and there is a brain in the stomach.
Right. There is. Yeah.
That the gut biome takes care of.
That's true. And that stomach brain was hijacked in the 70s when all the cigarette poisoners moved to the food industry and started poisoning the food to make us addicted to food. Mm-hmm. That was the hijack of the gut brain right there.
Mm-hmm.
You will eat Taco Bell and you will love it.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Yeah. And Chihuahua will be a devil. Devil comes back in the Chihuahua. I think that's probably a lot for this operation. Now, keep in mind, when the sun's in Virgo, Earth is in Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're technically launching now, materializing. I'm not using manifest anymore. So there's a change right there. I no longer call it manifestation at step 10. It's at step 10, I materialize because it's more of a better description. But we are materializing now the new spiritual story. So through the whole month of Virgo, as we're fighting over hardware upgrades and joysticks, we're actually, what's happening is we are materializing the next spiritual story that's going to run on Gaia, not the network, but the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it takes us to the third week already.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And week 3 is from September 7th to the 13th. We go from step 16 Virgo to step 23 Virgo. And the theme of the week is rebooting reality. So we feel that you upload all this thoughtware. You get this new hardware. You get the new hardware upgrade because it's going to have Apple Intelligence. It needs a special chip in it or something, right? It's like, all these special chips to run the new stuff. We got all the chips in. We got everything ready. It's now time to reboot reality. And that reboot happens through, we feel, a total lunar eclipse of 15 Pisces. So right in the center of the spectrum of Virgo, hi-ya, a karate chop to crack in half. And what is that crack in half? I think that crack in half is 15. That means that's the final line. I think that's where you will lose friends. And or you will lose relationships, or you will lose business partners, or you'll lose something that has been a part of you for a long time. That's when the cast officially changes, and people are laid off, so to speak. That's when you basically will lay off any relationship that was there only to teach you that you weren't sick. You were just told you were sick. Like so, all the players of the first chapter of this whole lifetime that were here to play the bad guy, so you could learn you were good. That whole cast is let go. And we bring on a whole new cast.
So, Christopher, I'm going to have producer Adam bring up the chart for that because this is a total lunar eclipse. And I didn't say anything to you behind stage because I wanted to get your reaction on camera when we bring up this chart. I want you to look at Venus.
Can we get tighter on that? Oh, good job. Venus. Where is she? Oh, Jesus. She's at 15 Leo. Wow. Trinity.
On a 15 lunar eclipse.
Quincunxing. Yeah. Quincunxing. And quincunx to me is like when God goes, and by the way, it's like an and by the way kind of thrown in there. And by the way, we should all love each other instead. Actually, if you look at this, honestly, what this chart says is it's not good versus evil. It's just love. It's not good versus evil. It's just love. That's all there is. It's just joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. SiriusJoy.com, but it is.
There we go. Yeah. So it's when I saw that, when I pulled the chart
Wow.
for this lunar eclipse, and then, at 15 degrees, and then the ruler of 15 also at 15 in Leo.
Fuck. That what that basically means is we're not only gonna do it at 15, we're gonna redo 15. Like it's a
Hmm.
double layer. Like, we're gonna reinvent this and invent the thing that's this. Like
Hmm.
it's a full reboot of what relationships are based on. And you could say that, good and evil is Virgo of Pisces in the sense of not that Virgos are evil, but Virgo is the energy you could use to turn away from God. If you're going
Hmm.
to use something to turn away from God, use a Virgo, like energy. Because Virgo energy is I'm this, I'm not that. Virgo energy, it has a capacity for atheism, like to completely block out the sun. If it wants, it just has that capacity. It doesn't mean Virgos are that way. Like Virgos, actually, what they do is they actually reinvigorate the sun that's been lost, technically. But this is like, it's not about good and evil anymore. It's about there's only good.
The other thing I want to bring up is fear constantly tries to find a way. On the 0 degree new moon, we
Mm-hmm.
had Black Moon Lilith attempting to get to us by trining Jupiter. But here she is now trining the North Node.
Mm-hmm.
Like she will not stop. And so it's just a reminder as we go through Virgo that fear is going to try to get at us. And look, fear wouldn't go after us if we weren't so damn valuable.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, if you would easily give in to fear, she'd leave you alone because you're easy pickings. I'll come to you if I need you. If you're hard to get, it's ladies. It's like when we play hard to get with the guys. Oh my God, how badly they want us. So it's her playing around here is just another remembrance that if you really get into that fear and you're just it just won't leave you alone, it is because you got something valuable that it wants, your heart.
Mm. Yes, exactly. I talked about in my intro to step astrology class that they say there's only love or fear, and I said, well, if there's no love, it defaults to fear. To me, fear
Mhm.
is the absence of love. That's what it is. If you're not love there, we just automatically fear it. If there's not light there, it's dark tunnel. We just automatically fear it. We automatically fear anything that's unknown,
Mhm.
right? And so, and by the only thing to replace known with unknown is love. So it's the fact that God's not around at that moment or in that space and time that there's fear. Point being, I feel that there are people who are here to finish off the game that we were playing. And, we need a happy ending, which is the bad guy dying, right? In America or whatever. And so, to some degree, if people have not replaced their fear with love, then Black Moon Lilith is going to fill that dark moon with a ton of fear. And so, I think we're going to have two classes of citizens. We're going to have citizens that are in a total panic because they're not in the light, because the light would tell you this doesn't exist. You're actually asleep right now in heaven playing a game. Oh, shit, we can't get to them.
Mhm.
So we literally lost transmission to those people. They're just not going to talk to their higher self. They're not realizing they're in a game. They don't know this is a simulation, and so they are acting like it's the real deal. And then there's another group of us who are in our hearts, and we're enjoying the movie. I think, you know, it's fun. Goddamn, So we're going to upgrade the program here as we reboot reality. The reboot is the total eclipse on Sunday, September 7th at 15 degrees Pisces. On the 10th, the sun will oppose the north node in Pisces, which means the sun will conjunct the south node, another way of looking at this.
Mhm.
And that is when I think we officially trash the old set, so to speak, right?
Mm.
So I feel like that will be a great migration to what appears to be people quitting the game, but in reality, they've set off into the sunset to build their own experience. So the lightworkers, I think, I feel like a lot of lightworkers at this point split. And when I say split, I mean they just suddenly don't care, right? Whereas
Mhm.
other people are like terrified about this scene where the main character may die. We're actually in the movie going, this is interesting that they developed it this way. Shh. No, everyone's shushing us. Because, at this point, I think light has realized, oh, this is all a game. And at that point, the other side, who does not realize this is all a game of simulation, it starts to get furious, right? Ultimately. And so we're going to have that furious is going to be the last Reich, so to speak, where there'll be a last stand, a last battle cry under the old system to finally and once for all get rid of, the bad guy, which is the good guy that they're calling a bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside out. Anyways, long story short, then we have the sun conjunct Mercury at 20.
Yeah.
The Kazemi is all right. So to me, you're not in play till the master. So what I used to call the master degrees, I realized is actually where the game is. That is where we enchant. That is where we're actually in our powers, 20 and up. I feel like even the teens are still preparing for the game, still preparing to get in the ring. I don't think we're in the ring until our emotions are on the line, step 20.
Mm-hmm. You have
Yeah.
to be emotionally prepared. You can be mentally prepared to enter the ring, but if you're not emotionally prepared, you'll get trounced.
And that's because what I've come to realize, and I talk about this in the intro to Step Astrology, that our emotions are the wireless network. The way we tune in the universe, the way we tune into our fellow players, it's all emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't connect to your feelings, you have no Bluetooth. You're not going to connect to any device around you. You're not going to actually be able to control any device around you. Because emotion is the Bluetooth. It connects us to everything. And so, yeah, the Bluetooth turns on September 30th.
Mm-hmm.
September 13th, excuse me. Yeah.
Well, and interesting you're using that Bluetooth analogy, because go over what the question of the week is.
Do I turn on Skynet?
Yeah. Now, there's a cultural reference that some people may not know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're joking before the show because this is also, I think, the official. You come from racing, your dad. What's the flag where the race starts?
The green flag.
The green flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. So this is the green flag, as far as I'm concerned. That the race has begun. At that moment, it begins really the sun conjunct Mercury. That's where the race begins. That's where, I think we take off and start the actual contest or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, but it's an interesting question. Do I turn it on?
Oh, and that's what I was leaning to. And with that green flag is the empowerment of Gen X. I think at that moment, Gen X is officially running the game. I think the baby boomers become officially the what's the word we're looking for? The elders.
Elder statesman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Pluto Leo becomes elder statesman. Pluto Virgo, Pluto Libra becomes the ones in charge. The next president will be a Gen Xer. This one is a boomer, right? Mm-hmm. Currently. And officially the millennials are on deck. They're next up. They actually now have to become responsible. And stop blaming the world for everything. They have to take a side. And it's really the millennials to take a side because they have Pluto and Scorpio. They take a side.
Right.
And the side can't be, I'm going to stay in my parents' house. That's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. Let my parents pay for me. So this is Gen X who's been supporting both the boomers and the millennials and getting no credit for it. X credit, right? X commissions, X, right? I think it's funny that Elon Musk, is naming everything X. He's a Gen Xer too, So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he represents X anyways. So what about week 4? How does this whole Virgo month wrap up, Robbie? You want to summarize the big picture? Because we have 10 things with the list here of things going on?
This is the big, heavy lifting week of Virgo, because what we have is all 3 personal planets moving into new signs. Mercury's going to go into Libra, Venus into Virgo, Mars into Scorpio. That's going to happen. And through all of that, we also will end the month as a partial solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo. Right. So a ton of movement, which is part of why at the first week we talked about the whole body aspect of what's going on, because we need to make sure that we are physically ready to go with the action. You got to be physically ready to play the game. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be just mental. We're going to have to be out there physically with it. And so all 3 of the personal planets, meaning our own personal physical energy there, is going to be very much in play. And it is part of why we said this week was launching the new program with 3 the personal planets all in 1 week going into new signs. Yeah, that's a launch.
Yeah, totally. It's a launch. And, incidentally, we have a new moon at 0. We have a karate chop at 15. And then we have a new moon at 29. So what I noticed about this, Robbie, is that we have 2 new moons at 0 and 29, which means the race is back to 15. We have a high and a low that are going to meet at 15. We're going to meet at 15. This is sort of like, in a war, you surround them and you meet in the middle and squish them like a pimple. It's kind of the same thing. We're going to go in those two directions. We're going to have the masters moving down towards the basic and the basic moving up towards masters.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to meet on the proficient 15 line, yard line. Yeah. Interesting. A good war plan there. Yeah.
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 So let's go to the big deal of that week, and let's look at the solar eclipse. It is a partial solar eclipse. So producer Adam, there he is. He's on his toes, and there we go. Shuffles us around. So look at what we have in terms of yods. So there is a yod to that 2-degree Venus that has moved into Virgo. There is a yod at a 29-degree Mars. So the sacred masculine and feminine being very much emphasized in this chart, with the conjunction, the new moon conjunction, smack dab in the middle of it. Right in the middle of it.
Wow. And at 29 degrees. So if you guys know the step system, this is incredible, because what you're doing is you're getting a new 29, which means you are raising the ceiling, first of all. 29 is the Grandmaster's step. The ascension begins at step 30. So we learned this in step astrology. Ascension begins at step 30. So to ascend, you've got to work yourself through all the 30s to get to step 40. You start ascending at step 40. Mm-hmm. Mind you, the planets only go to 29. And so 29 has the capacity to be any number if you rev it up high enough. It's a hummingbird degree where you can now hum and get above the system and start emulating step 30, step 31, step 32. So that's ascension. So we build basically at the top of the roof, now an escape hatch that gets on the roof. That's what 29 is. It's like, we're installing an escape hatch. It's like, where's this reality? This reality just stops right here. And I was like, nope, there's an escape hatch. What? So I think we introduce an escape hatch to ascend with this solar eclipse, I think. And, and Mars at 29 Libra. Oh, turns out there's an escape hatch also from insane narcissistic lunatics. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Right? So now we can also escape, totalitarians and aliens that have incarnated pretending to be a Bush member, right? And then on the other side of this is what I find compelling. So you got this Grandmaster at 29. Neptune goes to 0 Aries. So it's like the 0 that's holding space for. It's not 0 Libra. It's the 0 degree of the ascended ego, that the ego has ascended. So in this moment, which is what that yod is, so the 29 Mars and the 2 Virgo, we feel the matrix. It's like, I feel the matrix. And 18 is like, I shit out the old matrix 18 and I embody the matrix. It has a trap door in the ceiling to go to the roof, right? We call ground zero in this equation is the ascended ego. And then across back to Pisces. And what do? We're taking command, Saturn, of materializing the spiritual story, right? So we're holding space. We're materializing. Oh, this turns out to be a whole nother story. That we're on, a whole nother game. We're playing a different record up in heaven now. You guys are still dancing the Beatles, but we got this new thing called EDM kind of thing. And there's a spectrum there. Look at the grand trine in air.
Yeah.
So you got Pluto at 1, Uranus at 1, and basically creating Mercury at 6, which is Mercury at 6 Libra is an innocent mind that is simply open. That's the mind of a child, Mercury at 6. I know because I had Mercury at 6. It's the mind of a child. Yeah. Well, your mind is literally just open. Like, you've heard of boogeyman, but have you heard of woogie man? No, what's that? Like, that's my Mercury. So like, what's that? Ready to buy the lie. But ultimately, we're going to download into the mirage vows. That Mercury at 6 is your mirage vows. And your mirage, that's the center of your mirage. 6 is your mirage. So into your mirage of you to reality, we ultimately bring in this grand trine in air, right? And this grand trine in air is like, okay, in the new ethos, you must love yourself or you die, Pluto 1. And since you do love yourself, that's not enough. Take that self-love and perpetually forever keep dancing the self-love story. And that's the new mirage. The new mirage is self-love is forever, Pluto, and self-love is what innovates everything in life.
I want to point out something else. Two things. Jupiter at 21 at its Grandmaster degree. They are in Cancer, so this ability to really expand those Cancer aspects. But then knowing that Black Moon Lilith was playing around with us on the new moon and the lunar eclipse, I pay attention to where she is now. And
19.
at
Hmm.
19. And so, she's going to persevere. She's going to keep on trying and trying. But the orb between her and the North Node is 1 degree. And
Mm.
the orb between her and Jupiter is 2 degrees. So that 1 degree orb between her and Black Moon Lilith, a reminder that love is the highest power, what we would call God. And then the 2 degree orb between her and Jupiter, that I feel state of awareness, and there is Jupiter in the I feel state of awareness, is to just feel the kindness, feel the compassion, feel the family, go into that. Someone doesn't have to be DNA to be family. So it's just right there. And the orb between those dances there is how we engage with the fear. It's letting us know,
Absence of light. Yeah.
yeah, she's going to keep on. It's just, it's God universe letting you know, look, she ain't done. Okay.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
but here's how we continue to avoid her, or to not even avoid her, just to navigate around her.
Hmm.
And, that's just the beauty of the step system. When you look at that in these ways, it tells you how to use the chart.
Oh, totally. It's kind of like Black Moon Lilith like busts in the room, into the hospital room that's doing like laser eye surgery, and she's like, "It's because of demons," and you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, she's blaming demons for icons, for cataracts. But the truth, I agree. The 21 means the new belief structure is here, the
Hmm.
new story is here, and the new story of what gooder is. I mean, Cancer in those high degrees is what good is,
Hmm.
and I would say good the day before was just not dying of cancer, ironically. So now it's like, no, good isn't not having cancer. That's not what good is. You're gonna be happy that you just didn't die of cancer. Are you
Hmm.
shitting me? You think that's as good as God can do?
Hmm.
Right? It's like the definition of good, and it's like joygasm. It's one of my favorite words. Joygasm. We're gonna fucking be so good we can't speak. That's
Hmm.
how good is. So I think we redefine the term good and what good feelings are and what a happy life is. Also think this is the undo of the nuclear family. And I also think it's the birth of a new family. Some people said the family is dying. No, it's reinventing.
Hmm.
Family is not necessarily the biology you were born to. Family is the soul contract. That's a family. It's a
Hmm.
soul contract. You jump down into this game together, and that's why you're family. So I think we redefine family with that Jupiter 21, that instant moment too, and the
Hmm.
family unit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff there. We have some other little tidbits of this last move. For all practical purposes, after the eclipse, the game is on.
Hmm.
Because once you activate 29, once you introduce that there is a skylight in the ceiling that now becomes a stairwell to another dimension, basically we realize, oh, what's this hole? Oh, it turns out it's a dimensional portal. What the fuck? So we basically find a back door to reality, I think is what that eclipse is. And I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, that during this Virgo, a couple of things happen. I'm just going to make some predictions. One prediction is I think we're going to see some 9/11 truth come out officially, right? Maybe I've been told even indictments. That's what I
Hmm.
was told. Indictments. Like what? Someone's been working on that case, But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, whatever that laboratory is over in Europe or whatever, that we do find what's that term? What's that 80s show that's on Netflix? That's something. Some I can't remember what it's called, but it's a show that takes place in the 80s. They find a wormhole in the reality, basically. All the scientists in the 80s. Um, Basically, I think we're gonna find some sort of a hole between God and life. I feel like something's gonna happen in Virgo that gives a scientific hint that God exists or something.
Is it producer Adam said quantum leap? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's that it has gosh, I think everyone it's on Netflix. It's where basically there's a portal that opens up. It's all about kids. It's very 80s. It's like I cannot remember what it's called. Someone will come up with it.
I don't know, but Christopher, I'm going to interrupt for a
Stranger
minute.
Things. Thank you. Stranger Things.
Stranger
Sorry.
Things. I'm going to interrupt because I want to address something in the chat.
Okay.
So, Teresa here says Lilith legit died in 2023. Time to no longer include her in astrology. Black Moon Lilith is a mathematical calculation. You're talking about an asteroid.
Yeah.
Black moon Lilith is a mathematical calculation that is based upon how far the moon is what's called apogee,
Hmm.
from the Earth at the time, and it's literally the measurement of the middle of that distance called blind focus. So that
Yes.
is an incorrect there, and I wanted to make sure that that
Yeah.
was understood.
No, because Black Widow will always be there, except in the new age, she's a hangnail. Ah, I got a hangnail. It's just she's relative.
Hmm.
She's death right now because that's how dark and low we are. But when you get right high up, she's like, I'm sorry, it's raining. Like we at that point, the level of bad, remember, the definition of bad just keeps going up too. So the
Hmm.
worst case scenario is you might sneeze, right? She does exist always. You have to have in polarity. You can't be in reality and not have a dark. That's the whole point of reality. The whole system works because of dark. You have to have dark to even know there's light. That's how it works.
Hmm.
So I don't think we get rid of anything like that. Be careful of making those kind of. Now, White Moon Lilith is an asteroid, and she's part of a planet that got blown up. That's now the asteroid belt. So that's a whole other story.
Hmm.
She does exist, but she is basically divine. The war against divine feminine from the very beginning.
Hmm.
Mercury moving into Libra. That means our mind now goes to scoring the game. Like who's winning, who's losing, where, how far, how which. That's a big thing. It happens on September 18th. Of course, Mercury opposes Saturn in Pisces too. I missed that. So
Hmm.
Mercury Virgo opposes Saturn in Pisces. So there's this. I think this is a realization that just hit detonate. you know, I to some degree we're going to detonate and destroy. You realize every building on Earth, every institution on Earth that was built with modern technology was all built with the wrong premise of life. Every structure we have, government, everything was all built on the premise that you're a sinner. So every premise is wrong. Every building is off. Every compass is not currently properly scaled. We have to completely rebuild everything. Eventually, because all of it comes from the wrong premise of life.
Well, the magnetic poles have been shifting, so all of that stuff is off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So north is literally not north anymore. Yeah. Totally on a compass. Yeah. That's interesting. Mercury in Libra then opposes Neptune in Aries on September 18th. So at 0 degrees, I feel like that. That's ultimately where the ego game is changing, right? So the ego becomes the we go. That's
Hmm.
Neptune Aries at 0. That means the ego is not just survival of I, it's survival of we. It's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the entire species. Again, these distinctions that need to be changed. And Mercury in Libra is like redefining what fair is.
Yeah.
Fair according to whom is the question.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
fulcrum changes of that scale big time. Mercury and then imposes Neptune. Venus goes into Virgo. So what do you think? Typically, if I see someone has Venus in Virgo, I think to myself, well, there goes the romance. Okay. Well, there goes the romance. This is gonna
I've
this
got
woman's
Venus
idea of
in
romance is having
Capricorn.
sex over a vacuum cleaner.
I
You
have
know.
Venus in Capricorn. Oh my Lord! I wonder what you think about me. But
Mhm.
okay, I get that because that is Venus in Virgo is the epitome, and I think also in Capricorn of the tough love, of the also the love that is wiping your face off uh,
Mm.
with the vomit when you are throwing up from the chemotherapy medicine.
That's
That's
true.
what
Actually,
that's
that's
what
good.
Venus in Virgo is about.
Yeah.
It's not the pretty sometimes, but it's the necessary.
Yes, it is the what's the word? What was that story of the soldiers falling in love with the nurse? It's basically love is now you falling in love with the nurse. When the soldier who got his arm, his leg blown off in Civil War falls in love with the nurse.
Hmm.
Uh, I can't remember this, but yeah, that's ultimately the nurse who's not getting sick at all the vomit and the blood. Right? Yeah, that's true. So that is bringing some divine feminine into the dis-ease and helping bring some order to the disorder there. And
Hmm.
probably that is a emergency room Venus, an ER room Venus,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. But that's good. Some people get ER. The rest of us are getting a little pillow, help our back. My back is slightly hurt in first class.
Hmm.
Um, then Venus Virgo squares Uranus and Gemini. So, I think Venus and Virgo squaring Uranus and Gemini is the real challenge of what self-love is, you know.
Hmm.
And the truth is it's Uranus and Gemini that has the answer. We've been saying this for weeks at Sirius Joy. Self-love is an inside job.
Hmm.
There's nothing outside about it. So I think maybe that's the realization right there that self-love is an inside job with that
Hmm.
square.
Yeah.
Up until then, you thought, taking yourself on a Manny and Penny is spiritual growth. The secret is you aim for all the car you want on a vision board. Come on.
Well, and it's especially an inside job right there because that's its retrograde Uranus as well.
Totally, yeah, yeah. So innovation is inside out there. I agreed.
Hmm.
Then let's see. So then that's Venus square Uranus, and then on the 21st, the Sun opposes Saturn and Pisces at 28. So that Sun versus Saturn, that is now that is probably Darth Vader talking to Luke Skywalker moment in that
Mm.
Sun opposing
Yeah.
Saturn and Pisces.
Hmm.
Saturn and Pisces is like actually, at that moment, that Saturn is Satan, by the way. That's where we get the word Satan is Saturn. Okay.
Mm.
The only one that can go who really screws with the sun is Saturn. Where it's like, oh, I'm going to try to stop you with my rings. Like ultimately trying to control, what light goes beyond that belt, trying to control Saturn trying to control the entire Kuiper belt, everything. But Saturn opposes the sun there. It is the good versus evil there, in a sense, I think. And the revelation that the sun is going to, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, says the sun. Ultimately, it's at 28 degrees, which means that our heart with the sun in Virgo, maybe what it is too is that the alliance has taken over the Death Star. Also, you can look at it that way.
Hmm.
But ultimately, what it means is that we're going to create a new reality that is free of you, right? And the other side is saying, you're in my reality. I own the copyright, kind of thing. And then then on the same day, later that day, the solar eclipse,
Right.
which is maybe that's the green flag, really, isn't it? Huh? That's the green flag. Maybe the
Hmm.
white. What's the flag before the green flag? Yellow?
No, it's the green flag. There is no flag before the green.
No, but they're
There's
driving around the track before this race starts.
well, okay, so there might be a yellow flag to make sure that they don't go past a particular speed. But if you're talking about to start the race, it is green.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what happened earlier this month that we thought that was a green. So we said the sun opposing North Node in Pisces. It was we're saying that's a
Hmm.
green flag, but maybe that's not the green flag. That's like get ready, get set. But go is actually 29 degrees.
Well, then you're talking about like a countdown kind of a thing, like what they do in drag racing, what they call a Christmas
Yeah,
tree.
it probably is a RuPaul drag race. You're right.
Hmm. That's really not what I meant, but okay.
Hey, man, we're all about equal rights here. So anyways, yeah, we had the partial. So that 29-degree solar eclipse is, for lack of a better term, that gives you right to rewrite the code. So every human being will have solar eclipse. So how's the solar eclipse work? It's an impression, a light impression that gives you temporary superpowers. So, when you play a video game and like Mario, like eats the mushroom and suddenly is big, right? It becomes big. The player becomes big, and it can become big for like a certain amount of time. A solar eclipse would be you can become big until the next solar eclipse. And so 29 says, okay, for the next so many minutes on Earth, you can reinvent the game. I think that solar eclipse of Virgo says anything goes, anything goes. And so those who are trained light walkers, the light runners out there, if you are a light runner, you're here to run the light to the touchdown, then that eclipse says you've got temporary powers to do anything. And
Well, but if it's temporary powers at 29, it means you got to come from a real, authentic place. You don't get to goof off.
29 requires the most concentration. And by the
Yeah.
way, 29 Virgo is the definition of 29.
Hmm.
29 gets defined by 29 Virgo. That
Right.
means that eclipse will redefine 29 Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn. Every 29 of every sign now has an upgrade, which includes basically a hatch at the top of the ceiling that opens up to the roof. So we all
Hmm.
get a roof installation basically, and that's it. That's the opening of the door, step 30, and the opening of the door, step 30 is I believe is, and you take control of your belief structure. From step 30 onward, you're out of the matrix. You're now on your staircase to the fourth dimension, which is step 40.
Hmm.
So interesting. And then Mars, and then the next day Mars was in a Scorpio,
Yep.
which I don't know. That's basically the referees entering in the ice. I don't know, what is that.
That's the race getting underway. You throw that green flag, it takes the cars a little bit to warm up and get around that track. But now you got a couple of laps under you and you're full speed. Race is on.
Turbo boost, Knight Rider reference. I love it.
Hmm.
Yeah, Knight Rider. Yeah, cool. Yeah, by the way, y'all, you're just going to have to deal with our euthanisms for the next 20 years that we control the earth. You think Elon Musk is bad putting Easter eggs in video games and stuff? Wait till the entire Gen X generation is in charge, right?
Yep. Go
You're all going
watch
to
those old
regret making bad
reruns.
TV in the 80s. You're going to regret making bad TV in the 80s. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
So last words. Our question. You got to say what the question is for the fourth week.
This is a cultural reference here. We're going to see if you know it or not. Let me see if I can do it the correct way. Do you want to play a game?
Yeah. Do you want to play a game? Now, I think that's brilliant.
Do
Which
you
of course
want to
comes from
play
War
a
Games. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, War Games. Matthew Broderick's first breakout, really, right? His career. But the only way to win is not to play.
And that's the premise, is that he hacked something. He was not in authenticity about something, set
Right.
off a whole bunch of consequences, but was able to get it, everybody was able to get it back under control. But the end result being was the only way to win the game. It's not to play it.
Yeah, that movie is interesting because it's like War Games, which is this computer called the Whopper, no relation to Burger King. Ultimately, is going to be turned on like Skynet, and is running virtual game simulations. And so this young kid hacks into the military, which had hacked into freedoms a long time ago, pretending to be the good guy. It's like, woo, how the games we play. So interesting. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a hell of a month, Robbie. Any last minute predictions?
I agree with what you were talking about with the truth coming out, but I wouldn't limit it to 9/11. I think that there's just a lot. And I think that regardless of your position on any degree of politics, your perspective on any of these major pillars of our society, I think all of us need to be prepared that there was some aspect of that we weren't seeing and that we might be, quote unquote, wrong about. And to just go higher, and because it's the ego that's going to stick to a perspective, it's the ego that's going to stick there and not see a truth. And so I think all of us are probably going to be a little surprised by some of it, but that's not the only place where the truth is going to come out, the whole 9/11 thing.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of truth. Truth will be broken. I think a lot of let's put it this way: a lot of terrifying questions will be raised.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it possible? Dun, 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 kind
Yeah.
of thing. I also feel, again, I want to say scientific discovery of God. I feel like we will discover God scientifically in the next 3 years. That's one of my bold predictions. We're going to discover God. Now, I think, scientists will argue with the evidence and they'll be debating over the actual scientific evidence, but science already screwed themselves with the particle or wave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So interesting. Well, I look forward to it. We come back in a Libra, and that's when we start. That's when Gen X is officially in power. I think their first term in spiritual Congress and the Congress of Light, so to speak. And it's gonna be interesting times. I look forward to talking about it with you, Robbie.
It will be fun. Looking forward to it myself.
And so we'll be back next month live like this. This is our donation to the world, this show. And we'll come back always on the Wednesday prior to the sun sign change, if you know that stuff. Otherwise, we'll catch you every week on Namaste Today and LOL and Astro Mingle, our public shows. Or maybe you're part of the inside group. You're part of SiriusJoy.com, which is going through its own changes. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up for that and our subscribers and our clients. So you don't have to play this game alone. You can have a game assistant right there doing the Sirius Joy. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we thank you. We'll see you next month. Until then, we love you. Live, love, be.
All right. Love and blessings to you all.